They threw me away like garbage when I was 18. Just tossed me out. No money, no plan, not a single damn concern for what would happen to me. I remember that moment as clearly as I remember today. And today? Today is a wedding. A grand, expensive spectacle, dripping with fake smiles and manufactured perfection. The very people who once called me worthless are here, celebrating another one of their so-called victories. They think I vanished, ceased to exist in their world. They have no idea. I stand in the middle of this lavish ballroom, dressed in a gown that costs more than their hollow hearts can afford. My hair is perfectly styled, every movement deliberate, every step a calculated strike in a long-awaited game of revenge. I know exactly why I'm here. My eyes meet my mother's, cold as always, carrying the same disdain she has worn her whole life. She clutches her champagne glass so tightly I half expect it to shatter. My sister, the queen of the night, approaches with a smug smile curling her lips. You're not on the guest list. I lift an eyebrow, letting amusement dance at the corners of my mouth. Oh, that's interesting. Because I distinctly remember receiving an invitation. Her fiancé, pretty boy from a family that plays the status game well, goes rigid. His eyes lock onto mine and I see it. The shift. The recognition. His face turns pale. He opens his mouth to say something, but all that comes out is a strangled whisper. I take a step forward. Slow. Purposeful. You really don't know? And that's it. That's all it takes. The panic starts creeping through the room like spilled wine soaking into silk. The guests glance between me, my family, the people they thought were untouchable. They don't understand yet. They can't. 14 years ago they tossed me aside like I was nothing. They thought I'd break, disappear. They never imagined that I had been preparing for this moment my entire life. I glance at my father. He pretends not to see me, but I catch the subtle twitch in his jaw. My sister, their golden child, crosses her arms and scoffs. What? You think you can just show up here and, what? Be part of this family again? I tilt my head considering her words. No, sweetheart. That's not why I'm here. And when I turn my gaze to her fiancé, I see it. The fear, the realization. And that's when the real game begins. Silence thickens in the ballroom, stretching like a taut wire ready to snap. My sister, Amelia, the ever-perfect, ever-adored golden child, shifts uncomfortably. Her fiancé, Nathan, still hasn't spoken. His face remains frozen in some unspoken horror and I revel in the moment. Then out of the corner of my eye, I see movement. Someone else has noticed the unraveling of Amelia's perfect little world. Eve. A voice I haven't heard in over a decade. A voice I never expected to hear again. I turn slowly, deliberately, and there he is. Luke Carter. The last time I saw him he was 19, pressing a crumpled $20 bill into my hand and telling me to run. He was my only ally in a house that never wanted me. He was my only friend in a family that saw me as disposable. And now he's here. Dressed in an expensive suit, looking every bit the powerful man I knew he'd become. His sharp green eyes lock onto mine and something shifts in his expression. Shock, regret, something deeper. My mother stiffens. Amelia's fingers twitch around her champagne flute. You know her. Nathan finally speaks, his voice hoarse. Luke's gaze doesn't waver from mine. Yeah. I know her. The air crackles with unspoken history and suddenly I see it. The thing that makes Amelia's grip tighten on her fiancé's arm. The thing that makes my mother's lips press into a hard line. Luke is important now. More than just an old friend. He isn't just another guest, he's someone they need. I smile. Well, this just keeps getting better. What are you doing here, Luke? I ask, my voice light, casual, as if we're old friends catching up at a coffee shop instead of standing in the middle of a wedding about to collapse. His jaw tightens. Business. Amelia clears her throat, trying to wrest back control of the situation. Luke, don't waste your time with her. Luke finally looks away from me, his expression unreadable as he turns to my sister. Waste my time. He chuckles, but there's no warmth in it. That's funny, Amelia, because last I checked, your whole family's been wasting my time for months. Murmurs ripple through the crowd. My father tenses. What the hell is that supposed to mean? My mother snaps, her mask of composure beginning to crack. Luke slides his hands into his pockets, completely at ease, completely in control. It means, he says, voice smooth as silk, that I've been looking into the Moreau family business. And let's just say I found some inconsistencies. My sister's face drains of color. My mother's sharp inhale is barely audible, but I catch it. Oh, this is even better than I imagined. Nathan frowns. Luke, what are you talking about? Luke glances at him, then back at me, a silent question in his eyes. I nod. He exhales, then turns to the crowd, his voice carrying over the murmuring guests. For those of you who don't know, the Moreau family clinic has been under quiet investigation for fraudulent insurance claims. Millions of dollars. Stolen. A gasp ripples through the room. Guests exchange wide-eyed glances. My father takes a step forward, but Luke holds up a hand, cutting him off. You knew this, didn't you? Luke's voice is cold now, sharp. You knew, and you thought you could keep it buried. My mother's lips barely move when she speaks. You have no proof. Luke smirks. Oh, I do. And it's not just me. The authorities will be very interested in what I've found. Panic blooms across my father's face, but my sister, oh, Amelia. She's already calculating, already trying to find a way out. Then suddenly Nathan takes a step back from her. Is this true? He asks, his voice quiet but firm. Amelia doesn't answer. That silence is answer enough. Luke turns back to me. Eve, I didn't expect to see you here tonight. I tilt my head. And yet here we are. A slow grin spreads across his face. Yeah. Here we are. The wedding isn't just falling apart anymore. It's burning to the ground. And I'm going to watch every single ember turn to ash. The air is thick with tension, heavy enough to choke on. The polished elegance of the ballroom has turned into a battleground, and I am right at the center of it. Amelia, once the unshakable queen of the night, looks like a cornered animal. My mother, ever the puppet master, is silent, calculating. And my father? His jaw clenches so tight I swear I hear his teeth grind. Then Nathan, Amelia's perfect little fiancé, takes a slow, measured breath. Tell me it's a lie, Amelia, he says, voice raw. Tell me Luke is wrong. She hesitates. Too long. Nathan exhales sharply. Damn it, Amelia. He rakes a hand through his hair, his composed facade crumbling. You used me. You used all of us. Amelia finally speaks, her voice barely a whisper. Nathan, Save it, he snaps, stepping away from her. His fingers twitch at his side, fists clenching and unclenching as realization dawns. Jesus. What else are you lying about? And that's when the real bomb drops. A voice from the back of the room cuts through the noise. Low, dangerous, familiar. I can answer that. I turn, my pulse spiking. And there he is. A man I haven't seen in years. A man who should have never been here. Julian Moreau. My older half-brother. The last time I saw him he was walking away from our family, slamming the door on their manipulations, vowing never to be part of their twisted games again. I never expected him to come back. Yet here he is, standing at the entrance of the ballroom, dressed in a sharp black suit that makes him look every bit as dangerous as he is. His dark eyes flick to me briefly before settling on Amelia. And when he smirks, I know whatever happens next is going to be brutal. Julian, my mother breathes, her voice uncharacteristically shaky. Surprised to see me, mother? He drawls, stepping forward with the kind of effortless confidence that makes men like my father nervous. You shouldn't be. Not when I have a front row seat to the disaster you've created. My father straightens, trying to regain control. You don't belong here. Julian just laughs. Oh, I think I do. He reaches into his jacket pocket and pulls out a folder. See, I wasn't planning on showing up tonight, but then I got my hands on some very interesting documents. He tosses the folder onto a nearby table. Luke is the first to move, flipping it open. His eyes scan the contents, his lips tightening. Oh hell. What? Nathan demands, already unraveling. What the hell is it now? Luke glances at Julian, then at me. Then finally at Nathan. It's proof. He lifts a single page. Proof that Amelia has been funneling money out of your family's accounts for years. A cold silence crashes over the room. The weight of it is suffocating. Nathan sways slightly as if the ground beneath him has shifted. You stole from me? His voice is hoarse, unbelieving. Amelia's lips part, but no sound comes out. She looks to our parents, but for once they have no answers. No lifelines. No way out. And then, in a move that sends shockwaves through the entire room, Nathan reaches up and rips the engagement ring off his finger. The sound of it hitting the marble floor is deafening. This wedding is over. Amelia chokes out a sob. My mother reaches for my father's hand. And Julian just smirks. Now, he murmurs, turning to me. Let's finish what we started. The wedding is officially dead. But the reckoning? Oh, it's only just beginning. Chaos swirls through the ballroom like a hurricane, and I am standing at its eye. The once lavish wedding is now a battlefield of shattered illusions, and yet I know the storm isn't over. Not yet. Not until I see the last piece fall into place. Julian steps forward, his smirk sharp enough to cut glass. You know, he muses, I was going to keep this between us. Handle it discreetly. But then I thought, why not let everyone enjoy the show? My mother flinches, her mask of icy composure slipping for the first time tonight. Julian, don't. He holds up a hand, silencing her. No, mother. You don't get to speak. Not after what you did to me. To Eve. To all of us. Nathan, still reeling from the betrayal, rubs a hand over his face. What else is there? Julian chuckles, shaking his head. You really don't know who you almost married, do you? He turns to Amelia, and for the first time, I see a flicker of real fear in her eyes. Don't, she whispers, voice cracking. Julian ignores her and gestures toward the large screen at the front of the ballroom. Play it. A suited man, one of Julian's, moves toward the AV controls. The lights dim, the murmurs grow louder, and then the video starts. At first it's silent. Security footage, grainy but clear enough. A luxury hotel suite. A woman, draped in silk sheets, her back to the camera. A man enters, tall, familiar. Nathan stiffens beside me. Is that man? That man is not him. A collective gasp ripples through the guests. The video plays on, the man's face coming into full view. A man Nathan knows. A man we all know. His own best friend. Nathan stumbles back, eyes wide. No. No, this. Amelia lunges toward the screen. Turn it off. Now. But it's too late. The damage is done. The entire room saw what I had already known. Amelia had been cheating on Nathan with his best friend for months, maybe years. And now the whole world knew it too. Nathan's face twists with fury. How could you? Amelia whirls toward me, her desperation spilling over into rage. This is your fault, she shrieks. You planned this, didn't you? I tilt my head, feigning innocence. Me? Oh, sweetheart, I didn't make you cheat on your fiancé. That was all you. My father, who had remained silent throughout, suddenly speaks. His voice is rough, stripped of its usual authority. Enough. But Julian isn't finished. No, Dad, he says smoothly. I think it's time everyone hears the rest. Amelia is shaking now, tears threatening to spill, but Julian has no mercy. He turns back to Nathan, voice almost sympathetic. You think she only stole your money? Your trust. Nathan barely shakes his head. He doesn't want to hear it. But Julian continues anyway. She was planning to disappear after the wedding. Run away with your best friend. With the money she stole. Silence. Pure, suffocating silence. And then Nathan moves. In one swift motion, he crosses the space between them and grabs Amelia's wrist. You disgust me, he hisses, his voice shaking. You lied to me. Used me. Amelia gasps, trying to pull away, but Nathan isn't done. He looks around the room, his gaze landing on my father. And you, he spits. You knew about this? My father doesn't respond. That's answer enough. Nathan exhales harshly, then releases Amelia like she's something filthy. He doesn't even look at her as he turns and strides toward the exit. But before he disappears, he stops beside me. Eve. His voice is quiet, controlled. I don't know what kind of history you have with this family, but whatever revenge you wanted. He glances back at the ruins of what was supposed to be his wedding. You got it. I don't say anything. I don't need to. Because the moment he walks out that door, leaving Amelia broken and alone, I know. This war is over. And I have won. The wreckage of the wedding is complete. The ballroom, once a shimmering temple of wealth and status, is now nothing more than the ruins of a dynasty collapsing in real time. Guests shuffle awkwardly, whispering among themselves, eager to escape the fallout but too captivated by the carnage to leave just yet. Amelia stands frozen, her perfectly curated world crumbling at her feet. Her mascara-streaked face is locked in a look of pure devastation as Nathan's retreating figure disappears through the grand doors. The engagement ring he tossed still lies on the marble floor, glinting under the chandeliers like a discarded promise. Julian, satisfied with his handiwork, leans against a nearby pillar, arms crossed, his smirk never wavering. Well, he muses, that was satisfying. My father finally finds his voice. You ungrateful. Julian raises a hand lazily, cutting him off. Dad. You might want to save your breath. You'll need it when the IRS comes knocking. That shuts him up. My mother, ever the strategist, switches tactics. She turns to me, her voice smooth, dripping in manufactured warmth. Eve, sweetheart, she starts, stepping forward. We can fix this. We're still family. I laugh. I can't help it. A real, unfiltered, almost delirious laugh. Family. I echo. Is that what we are? My mother's smile falters. We made mistakes, but... No, I interrupt, my voice sharp. You didn't make mistakes. You made choices. Choices to abandon me. Choices to betray everyone around you. I step closer, lowering my voice. And now? You're just afraid of the consequences. Her expression hardens. You don't understand. Oh, but I do. I smile coldly. And the best part? I don't care. Security arrives before she can respond. The hotel manager, a stern-looking man with the air of someone who's seen enough scandals for a lifetime, steps forward. Mr. and Mrs. Moreau, he says, voice clipped, you need to leave. My father bristles. You can't throw us out. Julian snorts. Oh, you'd be surprised what they can do. A hush spreads as two men in suits step forward. The moment is surreal, watching my once untouchable parents, the ones who believed themselves above everyone else, being escorted out like common criminals. My mother shoots me a final glare, but I meet it head-on. This is the last time I will ever look at her and feel anything but indifference. The moment the doors shut behind them, it's over. Completely, irreversibly over. Julian exhales, running a hand through his hair. Well, that was exhausting. Drinks. I huff out a small laugh. I could use one. Luke, silent until now, steps forward. Eve. I turn to him. There's something in his expression. Something unreadable. Yeah. He studies me for a moment before nodding. You did it. I nod back. Yeah. I did. And for the first time in my life I feel something I never thought I'd have. Freedom. As Julian waves down a waiter, as guests finally disperse, as the chaos finally settles, I feel lighter than I ever have before. The war is over. And I won. The war is over. But victory is a strange thing. It doesn't come with fireworks or applause, just a quiet, eerie sort of stillness. The kind that settles in after a storm when the wreckage is all that's left. I step outside, the cool night air hitting my skin like a reset button. The city hums around me, indifferent to the chaos I just walked away from. Behind me, the ballroom is still filled with whispers and gasps, people picking through the remains of Amelia's ruined wedding like vultures over a carcass. Julian is the first to follow, his hands stuffed into his pockets. So, he says, drawing the word out, how does it feel? I exhale, watching the breath leave my lips in the crisp night air. Strange. Julian smirks. Strange good or strange bad? I consider it. Strange, free. Luke steps up beside me, his presence steady, grounding. They'll come back, he says quietly. Your parents, Amelia. They won't go down without a fight. I turn to him, my lips curving into something that isn't quite a smile. Then they'll lose again. Julian laughs under his breath. Damn. Cold-blooded. I love it. For the first time in my life, I believe in my own strength. I'm not the girl they abandoned anymore. I'm not the scared 18-year-old with nowhere to go. I'm something else entirely. Something they never saw coming. Luke tilts his head toward the street. Come on. Let's get that drink. Julian stretches, cracking his knuckles. And let's make it expensive. On Amelia's dime, of course. I shake my head, chuckling. Petty. Always. As we walk down the street, leaving the wreckage behind, I realize something. Revenge was never about them. It was about me. About reclaiming what they tried to take. My life, my choices, my power. Now I take my first steps into a future that belongs only to me. Unburdened. Unstoppable. Free.